Jaivam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Purvatikacharya Ashtottara Shatashi Shrimad Abhayacharana Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So I'm very happy to be with all of you in this temple. And I was asked by Hariksheta Prabhu to speak on the topic, preaching despite the difficulties. Let's see what I will say about this. But we will read the beautiful verse and purport by Srila Prabhupada to the 8th chapter of the second canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Questions by King Parikshit. Dhauta Atma Purushaha Krishna Padamulam Na Munchati Mukta Sarva Parikleshaha Pantaha Swasharanam Yatha Dhotatma Purusha Krishna Dhotatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Padamulam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Parikleshaha Mukta Sarva Parikleshaha Pantha Swasharanam Yatha Pantha Swasharanam Yatha Dhotatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Parikleshaha Pantha Swasharanam Yatha
Dhautatma Purusha Krishna
Dhotatma Purusha Krishna
Padamulam Namunchati
Padamulam Namunchati
Mukta Sarva Parikleshaha Panta Swasharanam Yatha
Dhotatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Swasharanam Yatha
Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Parikleshaha Swasharanam Yatha
Mataji.
Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Parikleshaha Swasharanam Yatha
Dhotatma, whose hearts have been cleansed. Purushaha, the living being. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Padamulam, the shelter of the lotus feet. Na, never. Munchati, gives up. Mukta, liberated. Sarva, all. Parikleshaha, of all miseries of life. Pantaha, the traveler. Svasharanam, of his own abode. Yatha, as it were. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. A pure devotee of the Lord, whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service, never relinquishes the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him, as a traveler is satisfied at home after troubled journey. Purport. One who is not a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna is not completely cleansed in the heart. But a perfectly cleansed person never quits the devotional service of the Lord. In discharging such devotional service as ordered by Brahmaji to Narada, in the preaching of Srimad-Bhagavatam, sometimes a representative of the Lord engaged in the preaching work meets various so-called difficulties. This was exhibited by Lord Nityananda when he delivered the two fallen souls, Jagai and Madai, and similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified by the non-believers. But such difficulties are very gladly suffered by the devotees in preaching, because in such activities, although apparently very severe, the devotees of the Lord feel transcendental pleasure because the Lord is satisfied. Prahlada Maharaj suffered greatly, but still he never forgot the lotus feet of the Lord. This is because a pure devotee of the Lord is so purified in his heart that he cannot leave the shelter of Lord Krishna in any circumstances. There is no self-interest in such service. The progress of culturing knowledge by the jnanis or the bodily gymnastics by the yogis are ultimately given up by the respective performance. But a devotee of the Lord cannot give up the service of the Lord, for he is ordered by his spiritual master. Pure devotees like Narada and Nityananda Prabhu take up the order of the spiritual master as the sustenance of life. They do not mind what becomes of the future of their lives. They take the matter very seriously, as the order comes from the higher authority, from the representative of the Lord, and from the Lord himself. The example set herein is very appropriate. A traveler leaves home to search for wealth in far distant places, sometimes in the forest and sometimes in the ocean and sometimes on the hilltops. Certainly, there are many troubles for the traveler when he is in such unknown places. But all such troubles are at once mitigated as soon as the sense of his family affection is remembered. And as soon as he returns home, he forgets all such troubles on the way. A pure devotee of the Lord is exactly in a family tie with the Lord. And therefore, he is undeterred in discharging his duty in a full affectionate tie with the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dotatma Purushah Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Panta Sva Sharanam Yatha. A pure devotee of the Lord whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ajanulambita Bhujau Kanakavadatu Sankirtana Ikapitaro Kamavaya Daksha Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karana Avatara Antakradishya Mamavachi Mamam Prasutam Sanjeevayata Kila Shakti Darasvadam Nanyam Shahasta Charanam Shravanat Vagadim Pranannamo Bhagavate Purushaya Dubin Swasyastu Vishwasya Kala Prasidatam Deyantu Bhutani Shivam Mithodaya Manascha Badram Bhajata Tadokshati Aveshyatam Nomati Rabhya Haitaki Hare Krishna. So very fortunate because we have opportunity to hear from Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavatam is a very special book. Hearing of Srimad-Bhagavatam is a very powerful sadhana, very powerful spiritual practice. What spiritual practice is supposed to do with us? Spiritual practice is supposed to purify us from the contaminations of our karma, from our misconceptions which are acquired because of our long-standing desire to enjoy matter. This is a very gross mistake which we all have. We are spirit soul, we are spirit by nature. But somehow or other, we have this conception, very deeply rooted conception, that I am the spirit soul. And most of us kind of have this intuitive knowledge that I am spirit soul, that I am not dying, that there is something beyond this matter. But nevertheless, despite of this knowledge, we have very deeply rooted desire to enjoy matter, or very deeply embedded in us conception that I may become happy by interaction with the matter. It's just not possible, just really not possible, because of the nature of the soul and the nature of the matter. They're completely opposite. The matter can never make the spirit soul happy, because that's it's not possible. They're opposite by nature. The matter is just temporary, it's dull, and you can only become happy if you are in contact with some spiritual happiness, because you are spiritual by nature. So this misconception is there, this gross misconception is there. And Srimad-Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, destroys this misconception and therefore purifies us. This is the purification which is necessary. All our sufferings are due to this mistake or due to this contamination that somehow or other I will become happy. If I get some more money or better flat in Bangalore or bungalow somewhere, or if I go to America, I'll become happy. This is such a strange misconception. So many people are not happy in America. But Indians think that if they go to America, they will become happy. So all these strange things, all these ideas, all these hopes, all these conceptions of happiness. If you go through Bangalore and see all these big billboards, advertisement boards. They're all, different misconceptions of happiness. You will be happy like this, or you will be happy like this, or you will be happy if you follow the advice of Amitabh Bachchan. Whatever it is, it may be underwear, or it may be some bank loan, or whatever. He has all the secrets of happiness. So why he is there? Because he is the icon. He is the ideal. People think that he's happy. He's not happy. He is the same conditioned soul, and he will, he's afraid of this and that. But people, they have this desire. I want to be happy, and the material world offers us different recipes of happiness. And we are foolish enough to take this recipes seriously. It's all cheating. All this advertisement is cheating, but we want to be cheated. And we're really saying that this is the way to become happy. So this is what purification means. Purification of our karma is only purification from these misconceptions. And therefore, other methods of so-called spiritual purifications, they're not really effective. Srila Prabhupada is very neglectfully calls yoga here gymnastics. And in one of the previous purports, he calls yoga mystic gymnastics. You do some mystic gymnastics. We just pass by big yoga hall. So people, they hope that they will be purified just by sitting in, I don't know, whatever position, just by touching by the right leg, left ear. This is, you can only be happy by doing yoga after you finish yoga. You squeeze yourself up and then you release yourself and you think, well, this is nice. This is how you become happy, by doing yoga. You're sitting in a very unnatural position, then you release yourself and you're in Shavasana and you think, oh, yoga is so nice. But how it will purify you from these misconceptions? How it will relieve you from all these ideas that I can become happy by being here? It's not possible. It's just not possible. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada is not very, of high opinion about yoga. I mean, it's a good gymnastic. It's gymnastic. But the problem is much deeper. Our problem, we have to understand that we have very deeply rooted problem, that is indifference towards the Lord. We are indifferent. We are not interested in Him. Because we have all these different misconceptions, we are interested in something else. We're really interested in material happiness, in matter. But, how many people are really interested in the Lord? Even in India, I want to speak about the rest of the world. The rest of the world is primarily atheistic, Gnostic. I'm from Russia, and I know people are, atheists. Of course, somewhere deep down they believe in God, but at least they proclaim to be atheists. But the point is that even if people believe in God, they're not interested in God. There is a difference in believe in God. I believe in God because I know that God can help me. That there is somebody up there, Uparvala, as they say in Hindi. So Uparvala is there. And because he's Uparvala, he can help me. But are we really interested in God? Are we really interested in knowing who He is, what He likes and what He doesn't like? How, what He wants from us? Are we really interested? We know what we want. It's such a strange idea to find out what Lord wants from us. What if He wants something which we don't want? It will be a big blow. Why do we need the Lord who wants something different that we want? So people believe in God, but their conception of God is that, He's somebody who can help me. That's it. There is no more conception, because and it's still the same indifference towards the Lord, because we want to exploit the Lord. We don't want to serve the Lord. We want to exploit the Lord. Sometimes people, they say, "I love you, I love you, I love you." But what they really mean to say, "I just want to exploit you." But I want to exploit only you, not anybody else. Therefore, I love you. So the other day I was traveling in a car, and the driver, there was some radio or whatever, some program, and there was some Bollywood songs or whatever, some songs, and then all of a sudden there was some sort of in between. The lady started yelling on the top of her lungs, "I love you! I love you!" It didn't sound like you love me, but it really sounded like, I need to exploit you. I need somebody to exploit. I love you. Come here, I love you. So in the same way, people think they love God. But they really want to exploit God. They don't have interest in God. So Srimad-Bhagavatam is a powerful sadhana. Hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam is a powerful sadhana, because if we hear Srimad-Bhagavatam, just hear Srimad-Bhagavatam again and again and again, from the proper source, as Prabhupada always stresses, especially in this second canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is about the transmission of the message of Srimad-Bhagavatam. If we hear Srimad-Bhagavatam again and again and again, then amazing things will happen. As it is said here very directly and clearly in the previous verse, that the Lord Himself will enter our heart. Just by hearing the sound vibration, which is the representation of the Lord, which is non-different from the Lord, the sound vibration of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the sound incarnation of the Lord, which is the Lord Himself. Srimad-Bhagavatam is non-different from the Lord. The Lord Himself enters our heart, enters our memory, and starts purifying the heart. Srinvata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Pridyantakstokya Badrani Vidunoti Suprit Satam. In the very beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami says that within our heart, Suhrit is there. Suhrit, and he is real Suhrit, Suhrit Satam. And when we hear Srimad-Bhagavatam, Srinvata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana, one of the names of the Lord in Vishnu Sahasranam, there is this name of the Lord, beautiful name of the Lord, Punya Shravana Kirtana. That's the name of the Lord. He is, when we hear about Him, it's Punya. It's the something which is very auspicious, some very auspicious activity, and that's the Lord Himself. So when we hear Srimad-Bhagavatam, Srinvata Swakatha Krishna, the Swakatha Krishna, the stories about Krishna, spoken by His Swa, by His devotees, by the greatest devotees who have this keen interest about the personality of Godhead, then what will happen Hridyantak Stohya Badrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam. This Suhrit Satam, the true well-wisher, the true friend of ours, who is sitting within our heart. Hridyantak Stha. He is sitting within our heart. He starts Vidunoti. He starts cleansing the heart. He himself, the Lord himself, takes a big broom and starts sweeping our heart from all these misconceptions. As it is said here, the same root, the same dhatu, Sanskrit dhatu is used here when it is said dhutatma. Dhutatma, the purified soul. Vidunoti, the same root. The heart becomes cleansed. Cleansed of what? Of all these misconceptions. Because the Lord is happy when we hear Srimad-Bhagavatam. That's the powerful sadhana, and it becomes powerful if we properly do it. If we really hear Srimad-Bhagavatam. Why? What is the reason why we hear Srimad-Bhagavatam? We hear Srimad-Bhagavatam because the Lord wants me to hear Srimad-Bhagavatam. Not because of some other ulterior reason. You know, like Prabhupada here in the second canto, which is again about the hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, how to hear Srimad-Bhagavatam, and what is the proper method of hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada again and again says that you can hear Srimad-Bhagavatam as a matter of ritual. It's auspicious, it's good. You know, somebody's father died, and you know, he happened to have some few lakhs, extra lakhs of money. So he arranges some Bhagavatam Saptaha. He invites some, you know, heavy builded Bhagavatam Kathakar who learned it in a special school, you know. There is a special school in Vrindavan. There is a special school how to present Srimad-Bhagavatam in a very attractive way, you know, and they learned all kinds of bhajans and this, that. And, you know, for 7 days, people come and, you know, they're being entertained. That's good. That maybe not so bad, but ultimately nothing changes. After such hearing, if you hear Srimad-Bhagavatam as a matter of ritual, because, you know, because my grandfather heard Srimad-Bhagavatam, maybe I should also hear Srimad-Bhagavatam, and my grandmother liked Srimad-Bhagavatam. No, but that's not the point. Maharaj Pariksit didn't hear Srimad-Bhagavatam because his grandfather heard Srimad-Bhagavatam. Of course, his grandfather was a hero of Srimad-Bhagavatam. He didn't even hear Srimad-Bhagavatam. He was the Naik of Srimad-Bhagavatam, he played a very important role in Srimad-Bhagavatam. But that was not the reason. Maharaj Pariksit heard Srimad-Bhagavatam because he wanted to be cleansed at heart. He's asking here, this is the speech of Maharaj Pariksit, the verse which we read is the questions of Maharaj Pariksit to Shukadev Goswami. And he says, please, please tell me Srimad-Bhagavatam, because very soon I will die. And I want to be completely clean in my heart before I die. It's very important to be clean before we die. Otherwise, you know, the contamination will breed another contamination. That's the way it works. You know, if you have contamination, you have some affinity to the dirt. If the contamination is still there in the heart, then we're kind of attracted to the same dirty things. So we will be born again and again and again and again. And Kali Yuga in the meantime progresses more and more and more. There will be more and more IT companies in Bangalore. And you can be happily engaged in all these IT companies 24 hours a day or whatever. But it's just a useless repetition of the same thing. So therefore Maharaj Parikshit says, please tell me about the Lord so that my heart could be completely cleansed. His question, it's very interesting. In the previous chapter, Narada Muni, while explaining how he heard Srimad-Bhagavatam from Lord Brahma, in the previous chapter he said that Lord Brahma, please told him, Narada Muni, please describe the signs of Godhead with determination and in a manner by which it will be quite possible for the human being to develop transcendental devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Hari, the super soul of every living being and the summum bonum source of all energies. The Lord Brahma tells Narada, you preach Srimad-Bhagavatam, you tell Srimad-Bhagavatam, because that's the only way. That's the only way to change the virus in our brain. We have, hardware which is wrongly wired. And we all know when the hardware is bad, software doesn't work. No. You need a good hardware so that the good software works. So what Srimad-Bhagavatam does, hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, it changes the hardware. It goes deeper. When we hear some other things, it may change little programs here and there, but the hardware remains intact. Srimad-Bhagavatam is an amazing book because if we hear properly, it goes very, very deep within our consciousness and changes the connections within our brain. Literally we have the, different connections between different neurons, which is the result of our past activities, all the samskaras. So when we hear Srimad-Bhagavatam, this change imperceptibly takes place. Believe it or not, it's happening now within your brain. Some new neuron paths are being formed within your brain, the paths which will tell you, maybe I should listen about the Lord more. So that's what's happening. And Narada Muni explains, Narada Muni, Shukadeva Goswami explains that Lord Brahma told Narada Muni, you preach Srimad-Bhagavatam, because that's the only way, because that's the powerful sadhana. And as soon as Maharaj Parikshit hears this, he tells me, he tells not me, he tells Maharaj, he tells Shukadeva Goswami, luckily for himself. He tells to Shukadeva Goswami, please explain to me how Narada Muni preached Srimad-Bhagavatam. I want to hear this. Why? Why does he ask this question? Srila Prabhupada answers in this purport. Because the preaching of Narada Muni was pure. And therefore, when we hear how Narada Muni preaches the message of Srimad-Bhagavatam, we may get the full benefit of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Why it is pure? Because Narada Muni preaches Srimad-Bhagavatam. Why? Because his spiritual master, Lord Brahma, ordered him to do this. Prabhupada explained this. And he basically is explaining about himself. Why is he doing? Why is he preaching Srimad-Bhagavatam? Why is he writing Srimad-Bhagavatam? Because his spiritual master told him to do this. He does not have any ulterior motive. He does not want anything from you. He only wants to give the Supreme Lord to you. And that's the first condition why Srimad-Bhagavatam, the hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam can be successful. If the speaker who speaks does not have any ulterior motive, if he just wants to give the Supreme Lord to you, because the Supreme Lord wants to give himself to the conditioned souls, and therefore he speaks to Lord Brahma, and therefore Brahma speaks to Narada, and therefore Narada speaks to Vyasadeva, and therefore Vyasadeva teaches Shukadev, and therefore Shukadev now speaks to Maharaj Parikshit. And when Maharaj Parikshit hears this, this is the pure line of Srimad-Bhagavatam, not just, somebody, a professional person who was trained to speak Srimad-Bhagavatam, but somebody who speaks from the heart, who speaks because he has realization of the happiness, which is the experience of somebody in whose heart Lord entered. As I said, Srimad-Bhagavatam, changes you from within because the Lord enters the heart, or because the Lord himself purifies your heart. And if you experience this happiness, you will start preaching. What preaching means? Preaching means, as Prabhupada says, if your heart is purified from the ulterior motives, and you understand that the lotus feet of the Lord, Krishna Pada Moolam, is the most important thing, and you experience how nice it is. You're at home. The simile which is here, the metaphor which is here, is that when somebody is traveling, he's a traveler, and he goes through very different arduous journey, and he encounters innumerable difficulties. Prabhupada says that for such a traveler, and we are all such travelers, we are traveling in this foreign land, and because spiritual world, material world is not our home. We're really not at home here. We're trying to, get a cozy home here, but we're really not. We don't belong to this world. We're not the inhabitants of this world. Prabhupada says that when a traveler in a foreign land going through immense difficulties just remembers home, he becomes happy. When he just remembers how he's loved, his dear and near ones, he becomes happy. I remember at one point, because I had to immigrate from Russia, from my homeland, to Sweden because of my practice of Krishna consciousness. It was a severe persecution, and the devotees arranged that I go to Sweden to translate Prabhupada's books into Russian. And I went to Sweden, and I was living in a very comfortable situation in ashram, but I was so homesick. I was just missing my dear people, devotees, and at that time, when you could leave Russia, it was very difficult to leave Russia, but you would never return back to Russia. Russia was behind the closed curtain, and the iron curtain. So I left Russia and couldn't go back. And I remember I was just, I was practically, I was drying up because I was in a foreign land. It was something, and just by remembering, my dear, friends and, relatives and this and that, I would get some relief. Prabhupada says in the same way, even if you don't realize the Supreme Lord, but you hear about him, you feel at home. So many people, I know this, so many people told me, they read Bhagavad Gita for the first time, and they felt, oh, this is something, I felt home. Finally, something makes sense. Nothing else makes sense. When we hear that there is the Supreme Lord and we belong to him, we are his people, and he loves us, and he is waiting for us, and we have eternal occupation and eternal relationship with him, and he is our closest relative. He is our closest, who is, eternally related to us. It makes sense. It makes complete sense. And when we hear Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, it feels home, right? I remember I was told, I didn't know anything about Krishna. I didn't know anything about anything, but my friend, he tricked me. He said, you just chant this mantra, Hare Krishna, and you will see aura of people. And I was interested in this seeing aura. So I started chanting Hare Krishna, and I thought, that there's nothing to lose, I will chant a little bit, and if I get bored, I will give up chanting. I'm still chanting, and I still don't see aura. 40 years later, I don't see aura, but somehow or other I'm chanting. Why? Because it feels home. It feels natural. God is there, and this is His name. I'm praying to Him, and it's nice. So basically, coming back to our topic is that, coming back to the verse, that was the introduction to the verse. I'm sorry for such a long introduction. But basically, what is said in the verse, very important thing is said in this verse. And Maharaj Pariksit heard that Narada Muni was ordered by Lord Brahma to preach Srimad-Bhagavatam. Immediately his reaction, tell me how he was preaching, what he was preaching. This interest is there. And in the same way, when we hear about Srila Prabhupada, how he went penniless to America, please answer honestly. Would you go to America? Who out of you would go to America if you only had 40 rupees in your pocket? And no friends and acquaintance in America. Just go to America. Who would go? One has to be crazy to do it. And on the top, you are all young. You are 30, 40 years old, Prabhupada was 70 years old. And his well-wisher, Sumati Maharaj, she told him directly, Swamiji, don't go to America, you will die there. If somebody, your well-wisher will say, don't go to America, you will die there. You're 70 years old, you only have 40 rupees in your pocket. Would you go to America? I have my doubts. He goes to America. Why he goes to America? Because he has the complete conviction that if he speaks Srimad-Bhagavatam, people will get relief from their sufferings. That's the magic of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And he proved that this magic worked. He goes to America and he starts speaking about Krishna, and nobody knows about Krishna there. Nobody heard about Krishna there. Why is he talking about some Krishna? What is this Krishna? But he speaks, and he goes under the tree and he starts chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And people stop, and people listen, and people feel, I arrived home. I'm at home. I'm where I belong to, where I'm supposed to be. This is the place. So many people told me, so many devotees in Russia, who never heard about Krishna before reading Srila Prabhupada's books, who never heard about anything, who were atheists. When they hear this, they feel, something happened with them. It is said here in this verse that only when you're completely cleansed at heart, when you're Dhutatma, when your heart is completely cleansed, then by hearing about Krishna, you feel, you have this feeling, you feel that, finally I arrived to my destination. This is what I need to know. This is what I need to hear. This is where I need to be. I need to be where Krishna is being glorified. I need to be where the Krishna Kirtan is there, where people are singing Krishna's name. I need to be where people are speaking about Krishna. Because, when people start doing this, they become normal. The people which don't do this, they are, with all due respects, they're not normal. Yeah, I'm quoting just one lady. One lady told me, recently I spoke with her. She said, for my whole life, I was looking for a society of normal people and I couldn't find. I was going here and there. And finally I came and it's normal people. I'm very surprised. And I came to they're normal. They have spiritual interests. They're normal in their dealings, in their behavior. They're not rough. They're not, So when we hear it is said that when somebody who is purified at heart, due to hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, he will never be able to give up the lotus feet of the Lord because he's pariklesha. He's mukta from all the pariklesha. Not just klesha, pariklesha. Pariklesha means all-round kleshas. He is completely cleansed of all the sufferings. When this magic of Srimad-Bhagavatam happens, when you hear about the Lord and you hear it properly and you hear it from the proper source, you hear it from somebody who realized the beauty and the kindness and the love of the Lord, you hear about this, then you become cleansed, and then you will never give up the lotus feet of the Lord. Some people try. There is a funny story about this. There was one devotee, and somehow or other, he had some difficulties, and he didn't like somebody, and he heard about this. He liked Prabhupada's books, but he didn't, he wanted to give up Krishna consciousness. He wanted to give up Krishna. Whenever he wanted to forget about Krishna, he was from America. He got a book, and then he threw the book, and he wanted to cut off his connections with devotees. But whenever he would be, either Harinam party would come, or somebody, something would happen. Ultimately, he decided to go to Alaska. Alaska is the most northern state of America, and he thought that there in Alaska, there's no devotees for sure. Nobody will find me there, and I will forget about Krishna. I will watch TV day in and day out, 24 hours a day, and I forget all this about Krishna. I cannot just, I don't want to remember about him. So he takes the plane. He goes to the plane, and then he boards down from the plane, goes to the airport, and the first person whom he meets in the airport is a devotee who offers him Bhagavad Gita. And he becomes so disgusted. Anyway, he still has some hope. He rented the hotel. He goes to hotel. He locks himself inside the hotel room, and finally he turns on the TV, and the first thing which he watches on TV, Harinam party goes, and in the news. And then he says, "Okay, Krishna, I surrender to you." You don't want me to give you up. But it's like this. When we really get connection with Krishna, Krishna enters our heart, and we cannot really give him up. we really feel that ultimately, there is no need for me to give up. It doesn't matter whether, the external circumstances are favorable or not favorable. Prabhupada is actually explaining that when you have this realization of the happiness of being with Krishna, hearing about Krishna, speaking about Krishna, preaching about Krishna, then you will never give up preaching, despite of all these difficulties and all these problems which may be there. Whoever preaches Krishna consciousness, if he is trying to do it, there will be some difficulties. People don't like it. Immediately when devotees started preaching Krishna consciousness in Russia, the whole Russian state, atheistic state of Soviet Union at that time, which was totally, completely dead against any religion, started harassing them. But devotees didn't give it up. It's interesting, in the first period of time when there was severe persecution of Krishna consciousness, and the devotees were not even so experienced, but somehow or other they felt that this is the right thing to do. And there was a secret police, KGB it's called, in the Soviet Union, and they were practically ruling the country. The country was very, authoritarian rule was there, and the secret police was watching everyone. And they will put some bugs in your apartment, to find out what you're doing when you're alone, and this and that. And all the devotees, they experience some problems, one way or another. And oftentimes, these people from the secret police, they would try to seduce devotees. They would tell them, you just, for the formality's sake, say that I give up Krishna. And we will write it down. And, you go on, you do it quietly there. For formality's sake, you say that you relinquish this Krishna consciousness, your connection with Krishna consciousness. And usually, and we will, we will not harass you anymore. Now, my friend, the friend of mine who actually made me a devotee, he was in prison for 3.5 years, or almost 4 years, I think, for practicing Krishna consciousness. And on a number of occasions, he was told, you just, for formality's sake, you give up Krishna, and we will release you from the prison. He said, no, I will not do it. I cannot do this, even for formality's sake. And one devotee did it. He was harassed severely by the KGB, and they called him to his office, to their office, and they said, you write down that you're giving up this Krishna consciousness. You sign that you are rejecting this Krishna consciousness, and he did it. Next morning, he couldn't chant Hare Krishna. He just could not chant Hare Krishna. The connection was lost. He was trying, he was crying, he was, it's just somehow or other he couldn't do it because he rejected Krishna. And Krishna, he says, if you reject me, I reject you. He underwent severe difficulties because of this. So the point of this verse is that when you have experience, even if it's a little experience, even if you are not completely cleansed, but still you have some experience, it's there. Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Nehabikrama yashasti, Nehabikrama nashasti, pratyavayo navidyate, svampama pyasya dharmasya trayate mahadobhayat. That even if you have little experience of real Krishna consciousness, it will never leave you. It will always remain with you, unless you commit an offense. This is the secret. If you want to give up Krishna consciousness, you have to commit offenses. Then Krishna may leave you. But if you don't commit offense, then this connection is established, and that's eternal connection. And whether the difficulties are there or not there, it's something real, and you cannot really reject the reality. And that's the test. If you're sincere, if you had the sincere intentions, and if you hear the sincere message of parampara, of these pure souls, which are purely preaching Krishna consciousness because they were ordered by higher authorities, because they ultimately fulfill the desire of Krishna, then you will never be able to give up Krishna consciousness. Why? For what? And this process is eternal. You will continue hearing about Krishna here till the end of your life, and in the spiritual world you will do the same thing. In the spiritual world, people come together and they say, you know what Krishna did today? There is constant Srimad-Bhagavatam Katha going on. Many, many pastimes are there. Krishna is so beautiful. And, they come and they say, I saw Krishna today. You know how beautiful he is. You know how beautifully he is decorated. He looked at me and his eyes were so kind. And his eyes went so deep into me. And I felt such a beautiful experience I had while doing this. And when we hear Srimad-Bhagavatam, basically, this is the experience which we should have. Krishna is looking at us. Krishna is speaking with us. Krishna is telling us, finally, you're here. Finally, you hear about myself. After hearing so many other garbage, you're hearing about myself. And if we do this, following Prabhupada's footsteps, we will be successful. And we should preach. We should tell others. Like on the way here, I was told how the Sati Sai Baba people preach. If you had some miracle in your life, Sati Sai Baba, one acquaintance of mine, he told me, he said, Sati Sai Baba is such a great saint. I was in my office, and all of a sudden I saw this very clearly, his figure. And he was saying something to me. And at this moment of time, I smelled some smoke. And he said, immediately I ran home and I found out that my iron, which I was ironing, was still on, and a little bit, and it was already smoking. So Sati Sai Baba told me that my iron at my home is smoking. So see how he's God. So they say, if you experience this miracle, you should preach about Sati to others. You should get others involved. See, this works. So I'm with the same message. I'm here speaking with you. If you experience the magic of Srimad-Bhagavatam, if you experience the touch of Krishna by hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, you should preach. If you experience this feeling that ultimately I found something which is so amazing, and just by remembering about Krishna, I feel already relieved from all the sufferings which are there. And people know. I recently, again, I spoke with one disciple of mine, one devotee. He said, I was in such a suffering. I was in such a difficult situation. And he said, at that time, I wanted to speak with you, but somehow we couldn't speak. And then he said, I started listening to Srimad-Bhagavatam, and I was relieved completely. All this intense, acute sufferings which was there was relieved because I understood that this is something temporary which will be gone, and ultimately it's not so important, and there is much more important things in the world. My relationship with Krishna. So if you experience this magic of Srimad-Bhagavatam, that Srimad-Bhagavatam relieves you from from your karma, from your misconceptions, changes your personality, changes your heart, changes your outlook of the world. I tell you one little story, and I'll finish with this little story. It's also a very interesting story. Recently, one devotee wrote to me. He's a preacher. He's an old devotee for a long time. He preaches, and he told me one little experience. He said that he preaches to new people, and these new people become interested. And then one lady whom he preached, he's a brahmachari, and one lady whom he preached, she started complaining to him. She said, she explained some happening in her life, and that somebody basically cheated her. And she's a very new. She just started coming to Krishna consciousness, and she understood some ideas of Krishna consciousness. And somebody cheated her and betrayed her. And she came to this brahmachari, to this person, and she said, "You know what? I have a problem." She said, "What kind of problem you have?" And she explained this whole story. I will not explain the story. It doesn't really matter. It's this whole story, whole drama, little drama of 40-year-old women, and then she said, and she said, "What's your problem?" He saw that this is the problem which she describes. She said, "No, this is not my problem. My problem is that because they did this to me, somehow or other, I cannot love them. This is my problem. I try to love them despite they did this to me, but I cannot do this. It's just something inside me rebels against it. That's my problem. Can you help me how I can be relieved from this problem?" And this devotee writes to me. She said, when she wrote this to me, when she explained this to me, he said, "I was shocked because I realized that she is more Krishna conscious than me, because she now realized how she should behave, that she should behave nicely with everyone." And I already forgot it because I'm a senior devotee. I don't. But she said basically what she said to him. I value this little sprout of Krishna consciousness which I have so much, and I'm afraid that I lose it because of my bad relationship with these people. This is the proof. This is the magic of Srimad-Bhagavatam. People, they get little connection with Srimad-Bhagavatam, and they change their relationship to the world. Before that, she would be habitually, hating them without any problem. Habitually. Somebody did something wrong to me, I have the full right to do something wrong to him. I have the full right to hate him. I have the full right to say something to him. What I want to say is that people listen to Srimad-Bhagavatam, their heart changes. Something very important happens with us when we listen to Srimad-Bhagavatam, if we listen to Srimad-Bhagavatam properly. And if we experience this change of the heart, which we're supposed to experience, this is the title of one chapter in the second canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, then we should preach the same message to others and tell that they should hear Srimad-Bhagavatam and read the books of Srila Prabhupada. I guess that's it. I'm too long. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada. Yeah.
Any questions you like to put forward, or if you appreciate any point that also you can share?
Yes.
Maharaj, thank you very much for wonderfully sharing so many beautiful pastimes and realize. But for us, at a sadhaka level, whenever some difficulties or obstacles or some challenges comes up, like either we get distracted or negated, or really get a lot of anxiety. And if somehow or other, if you really come over it with the grace of the Lord and the Vaishnavas, and then we feel that, oh, you see, like how I am so special, right? I came over it. Like, it means that I'm a special devotee now. So how do you really come up with the first level and then the second level?
The more you think that I'm a special devotee, the more chances are there that Krishna will show to you that you're not so special by giving you some difficulties. So better you don't think that you're so special. Otherwise you're asking for troubles. You know, these difficulties are there in our life. They're in everyone's life. And they basically show to us the level of our devotion, the depths of our devotion. I remember I had some crisis. I had severe crisis, and I spoke with Guru Maharaj about this. And he started chuckling. He said, "Oh, Krishna shows to you, maybe you're not so great as a devotee." Perhaps. So these tests are there. Krishna sends this test, and it's not for him. He knows the level of our devotion. He doesn't need to test it. It's for us, because we tend to have an illusion about ourselves. We tend to overestimate the depths of our emotions. You know, something little happens with our life and we become totally distracted and disturbed, and we, you know, only think about this and we cannot concentrate on Bhagavatam. But it's only a stimuli to do sadhana more intensely. You know, you can do, there's no doubt about it. But also, perhaps you have to ask yourself whether I'm doing it in the proper frame of mind. Srimad-Bhagavatam is a powerful sadhana, there is no doubt about it. But whether I'm doing it properly, whether my attitude when I hear Srimad-Bhagavatam is proper or not, because the efficiency of the sadhana very much depends on our attitude, how, with which attitude we do it. If we do it properly, then it will be very quickly working. Vidunoti suhrit sadham nashta prayashva padrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Almost all the problems will be cleansed by just nityam bhagavata sevaya, regular hearing of Bhagavatam and devotee Bhagavatam, those people who have relationship with the Lord. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. The question I have is, like, there are two situations. Like, in one situation, the people, that person went to Alaska, he wanted to get out of Krishna, but Krishna is not getting out of him. The other person just for the state in the jail, he said, like, okay, I'll get out of Krishna, but Krishna doesn't. What is the mistake the other person did?
Well, see, Krishna is a person, and therefore he is unpredictable. When you're dealing with persons, you cannot really say, you know, you always have to do it like this, you know. When you're dealing with robots, you can say, Krishna is a person. Somehow or other, he liked this first person because, you know, we never know exactly the reasons why Krishna behaves this way or that way. But my speculation is that there was a deeper connection between the first person, and his anger towards Krishna was kind of superficial. It was just little superficial, but there was deeply rooted connection. And because of this deeply rooted connection, you know, like sometimes we feel this, that there is some connection. And some people have very deeply rooted connection from past lives. Maybe this particular devotee who wanted to hide from Krishna in Alaska and found out that Krishna is there in Alaska too. Maybe he was connected with Krishna for already many lifetimes, and it was little mistake. And he actually reacted nicely. When he saw this Harinam party on the TV, he became immediately. He said, "Okay, Krishna, I surrender to you." So, whereas this other person, again, I'm nobody to judge. I'm just telling the real life story, what happens with him. Maybe there was some lesson Krishna wanted to teach him. Ultimately, Krishna would not give him up. Krishna never gives up his devotee. But for some time, his devotee may temporarily experience difficulties. So there is ultimately no loss for even the second devotee I explained about. But Krishna wanted to teach the lesson that we should be true to ourselves. In certain I can imagine a condition when person would do this, when a devotee would do this for the sake of higher purpose, and Krishna would be very happy for him doing this. But there are also some other circumstances where Krishna is displeased. So therefore, we have to be very sensitive. When we're dealing with, why people, like all the machines? Because you don't have to be sensitive in dealing with machines. When you are with your, of course, if it's an Indian-made machine, maybe you have to be sensitive. Normally, you don't have to be too sensitive. You're dealing with your smartphone and you're doing this, and the smartphone behaves the way you like him or it to behave with you. But when you're dealing with the person, you have to be very sensitive, and therefore people they don't like to deal with the persons nowadays because they are not so sensitive. You're doing something which other person doesn't like, and you don't even understand why he doesn't like this. But that's the glory of dealing with the persons. When you're dealing with the person, you can learn how to become sensitive. You develop yourself, you develop sensitivity, you develop your personality. So in this similar way, Krishna is a person, and we have to be very sensitive when we're dealing with him. Sometimes we chant and we feel very blissful, and we chant that Krishna is near, and then other day we chant and we feel nothing. Why? Krishna is not happy with us, and we have to ask ourselves question: why he's not happy with us? What did I do wrong? Why all of a sudden such a change in the reciprocation which is going on? Krishna is not only sensitive; he is super sensitive. He is the super soul, and therefore he's super sensitive. He's very sensitive, and therefore we have to be super careful in dealing with the super sensitive person. It means basically we have to be very conscientious, very sincere within our heart. Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is the bigger cheater. If you want to cheat Krishna, he will definitely cheat you because he is a better cheater than you. So don't try to cheat him. Be very conscientious in dealings with him. Yes.
What is the first quality the devotee must develop to how Krishna feels?
Yeah, that's the first quality which devotee must develop: sincerity or simplicity. Saralata. Saralata means to be simple at heart, to be straightforward, at least in dealings with Krishna. Don't try to cheat or, in this way we will be free from this tendency of self-deception. We should be very, very conscientious. I'm doing this because, I have to do this. And this is the wrong motive. Again, this wrong motive is affecting me. We have to, do this self-introspection and try to be very straightforward with others. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said, he says, Vaishnavata means Saralata. He equated this quality of Saralata with being a Vaishnava, with Vaishnavata. So that's the most important. And then everything else comes from it. Humility and tolerance and everything else. Saralata is very important. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Really like to thank our heartfelt gratitude for His Bhakti Vigyan Swami Maharaj. So, in spite of his busy schedule, he has some other programs as well. And yes, we were really eagerly waiting for Maharaj's association for last couple of weeks. And we are very, very grateful to Maharaj for sharing his wonderful realizations, how he himself has gone through so much of difficulties, and he has made them really opportunities to transform so many hearts in Russia and now also all over the world. So we would really pray at the lotus feet of Gandharva Giridhari Mahaprabhu to continue to shower their choicest blessings to keep Maharaj in good health, so that he continue to inspire all of us in taking up this Prabhupada's movement, to a lot of new souls. So let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and pray loudly from our heart to their lordships. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please chant louder, please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Thank you very much, Maharaj. We look forward to your association sometime very soon. So just a few announcements. So for the pleasure of the lordships and for the pleasure of Vaishnavas, and we seek their causeless blessing. For the last couple of weeks, we have been doing some research, some exploration to get some place, if the lordship desire, so that the devotees can have some nice place, a bigger place, and a maybe permanent place for their Lord. We are trying to get some land around this place. So, and the Lord manifests only with the desire of the devotees, not with anything else. So, you humbly requesting all the devotees to sincerely pray from their heart, like either we are chanting or reading Srimad-Bhagavatam or serving the devotees, that may, if the Lord desires, right, if our Guru Parampara desires, so we want to really offer them a nice place so that we can attract more and more souls in taking up this process of Krishna consciousness. Yes, we have already shortlisted a couple of them, but it's really up to the Lord's desire, Lord's plan, Lord's arrangement that it will get manifested. So it's our humble prayer and request, and we seek the blessings of Maharaj as well, so that it get really manifested quickly, so that, yes, we have been preaching nicely as an action center in Bellandur, Kadugudi and Whitefield and so on, but now also we should have a place where all the devotees can come together to get the inspiration from everybody. So that's our humble prayers. And tomorrow is our Siksha ceremony, so request all the devotees to be present. Thank you very much. So now we'll go for prasadam. So we have so prasadam will be offered, honored in the terrace.